The Bitter Side of Sweet, Chapter 8. The day is a humid ache of work, accompanied by the drone of mosquitoes. I smack at the insects when I can't stand it anymore, but others are always there to take their place. Mosquitoes are like bad thoughts that way. All day I swat away thoughts of Seidu and Khadijah, but I can't ever make them stop. Today, more than most, I note the slow creep of the sun across the sky, and I race to fill the bags, hoping to leave early. It still hurts to work, each swing of my machete pulling on the half-healed welts crisscrossing my back. But I won't let myself slow. I'm on my second sack when someone joins me. "I'm sorry about your brother," says a quiet voice at my elbow. I rub my forehead against my upper arm, not wanting to put down my machete to wipe the sweat off my eyes properly. It's Yusuf. I don't feel like talking. I keep cutting the right pods off their stems, and for a minute we work side by side. An uncomfortable silence stretches with only the chop of machetes to fill it. With Yusuf so close, it's hard not to imagine what happened to Seidu. Why was he even working near someone? Why didn't he get his own tree? I know that Yusuf is giving me the chance to say something, giving me the chance to talk. I want to think that Yusuf is being nice, but somewhere else in my head, a dark, poisonous voice whispers that maybe Yusuf's conversation isn't based on feelings of kindness. Maybe it comes from feelings of guilt. Could Yusuf be the one who cut my brother? I won't let myself ask, but I also don't make eye contact and I don't talk to him. I focus on the movements of my hands and resolve not to talk to anyone for the rest of the day. After a while, Yusuf lets his work take him away from me. I don't invite him to stay. The afternoon passes in a haze of sweat as I worry about Seidu. How is he doing? How is he feeling? Is Khadija alert enough to help him? Visions of the two of them sprawled on the floor, too weak to reach for the water, assault me, making me work faster, sloppier. But I don't care. All that matters is seeing them again and knowing they're all right. When Musa finally looks at the orange-striped clouds and says it's time to go, I shove my machete into a loop of rope around my waist, heft a sack, and break into a jog. Musa lets me run. I guess he knows I'm running back, not away. I skid into the clearing and dump my sack of pods by the lean-to. I toss my terrible machete into the tool shed and race to the sleeping hut. "Seidu, Khadija, I'm here," I call through the door. When Musa catches up to me and unlocks the padlock, I charge across the dusty floor and drop to my knees beside Seidu. He's lying very still, but I can see the soft rise and fall of his chest, and I slow my breathing to match it. When I reach out, he gasps as if it hurts for me to touch him. He's burning with fever. The makeshift bandage I put on him this morning is crusted solid. When I left, it was loose, but now it's so tight. His fingers bulge out of the top like cassava tubers. I turn and look at Khadija, not knowing what to say. She leans forward and puts her free hand on Seidu's face. He whimpers again at being touched. "He's been like this for a while," she says. "Was he awake at all?" I ask. "A few times, but he was raving, so I think it was just the fever talking." "Did you give him more water?" "How was I supposed to do that?" I remember too late that they were locked in. "I'll go get some now." I reach for the empty bucket and the bowl. "Bring me some too?" I can hear how hard it is for her to ask. "Of course," I say. As I jog to the pump, I see the rest of my group file into the clearing. I fill the bucket with water and head back into the hut. Though it kills me to do it, I hand it to Khadija first, since she's awake. Her eyebrows go up in surprise, but she doesn't say anything. She takes a few long, slow swallows and then tips the rest of the bucket over her head and hands. She gives it to me empty, and I retrace my steps. This time, as I head into the sleeping hut, a few of the other boys follow me. I ignore them and kneel by Seidu. I hold his head in one hand and try to pour the water into his mouth with the other. He moans and turns away. The water dribbles down his neck. Frustrated, I consider my options. Unless he's awake, I can't make him drink. As long as his fever is this high, he won't be awake. The thin remains of daylight coming through the open door glint off the water I fail to pour into his mouth. That's all the thought I give it before I pour the entire bucket of water over his face. All I was trying to do was bring down his fever, but when the cold water hits his skin, Seidu jerks awake, screaming. He lurches into a sitting position, then, gripping his arm, falls back again. He's awake now, and I try to reach for him, but he hasn't stopped screaming, and his writhing is turning the water puddle under his head into a thick mud that coats his face and shoulders. I hear the other boys murmur behind me and shuffle away. Seidu, I say, leaning over him. Seidu! His shouts are formless. I don't even know if he knows I'm here. I want to follow the others out of the hut. But this impulse shames me deeply, and I stay put. I look at Khadija. He was like this? I ask. She nods. I don't know how she stood it. I crouch there, frozen by my own powerlessness, until I hear a grunt of distaste. I turn and see Musa silhouetted behind me. I hate how small and miserable I must look, but there's no way I can think to move that would be helpful. Musa takes one look at Seidu and hoists him into a semi-standing position, braced against his body. I stare dumbly as Musa wrestles Seidu out of the sleeping hut. Wait, I say, scrambling to my feet and running after them. You're hurting him. Musa throws me an annoyed glance over Seidu's head. With a fever this high, everything will hurt. But I stumble along beside them, waving my hands uselessly. But this is hurting him more than leaving him where he was. Stop. Musa ignores me and drags Seidu to the water pump, laying him in the mud. Seidu struggles to get away. Get his head up, Musa says to me. I scramble behind Seidu and hold him against me. He thrashes weakly from side to side. Hold him still, says Musa, and then he stands behind the pump and works the handle. With powerful thrusts of his arm, water gushes out. I'm about to tell Musa that getting Seidu wet was what made him start screaming in the first place, when Musa reaches around and cups the spout, redirecting the water so that it drenches us both. Seidu lurches in my arms as the water hits his fevered skin. Stop it, I shout. Musa stops, but his scowl could rip the sky. The water's hurting him, I mumble miserably. Would you rather hurt him now or have him die? Musa's quiet question stabs me like a machete. Neither. I don't want him hurt, now or ever, and of course I don't want him to die. What? We have to bring his fever down. If we don't, he may die. I would prefer to hurt him now and have him live, than let him be comfortable now and have him die. Which would you prefer? I stare dumbly, unable to answer. After a moment of silence, Musa starts pumping the water again. This time, when Seidu bucks and shrieks, I hold him still. After a while, he goes limp in my arms, resigning himself to the pain, crying. I let the hard, cold water hit my face and take my tears away with Seidu's fever. When Musa stops, both Seidu and I are soaked and shivered in the early evening breeze. Let's get you by the fire, says Musa, and he hauls us both up by the arms. He slings Seidu's dead weight between us, and we shuffle to the fire, where Musa lets go of his side. Seidu and I crumple in a heap inside the orange circle of light. I pull Seidu's head into my lap and carefully place his hurt arm on top before I look around the fire. It's oddly quiet as the boys consider us. A soft clanking of chains draws my eyes to where Khadija settles. I'm still shivering and wet, but Seidu's fever has already dried the water off his skin. I tell myself that the swelling will go down along with his fever, but when I look into Seidu's eyes, he doesn't look out at me. He's awake, but has gone somewhere far, far away, inside where I can't reach him. I stroke his forehead, willing him to get better. Yusuf offers me a bowl of stew. When I take it, he leaves without another word. I try to think of a way to get some food into Seidu, but I'm afraid that if I force the chunky soup into his mouth, I'll end up choking him. So I just eat my portion and spend the rest of the quiet evening wetting Seidu's head and trying to sneak little dribbles of water into his mouth. When they call us for bed, I'm not sure how much I've succeeded, but I go and refill the bucket with water for the night and carry it into the sleeping hut. Then I half carry, half drag Seidu in after me. I don't know how much later it is when I hear the whisper. Amadou, are you awake? I sigh and answer quietly, yes. What is it? How's he doing? Khadija must not have been able to sleep either, though whether this is because of the discomfort of the chains or the discomfort of sleeping in a house surrounded by 14 boys, I'm not sure. I flush a little in the darkness, wondering if she's been listening to this stupid nonsense I've been whispering to Seidu for the past hour or so. I guess she has. I push the thought away. Still hot. There's not much more to say than that. Have you gotten him to drink anything? No. The frustration of it roughens my voice. It just dribbles off his face. A pause. I can take over swabbing him with water if you want to sleep. No, we're fine. Another pause. You should try to sleep. What does it matter to you? I ask dismissively. She doesn't answer my question, but goes on as if I hadn't spoken. I was able to rest yesterday, and they'll probably keep me here tomorrow too, so I can sleep during the day. You were in the fields all day, and they'll probably make you go out again tomorrow. You should sleep if you can. I can take care of my own brother, I bite out, but the words are sour in my mouth, and I can taste the lie in them. You'll be no good to him if you get hurt because you're overtired, she says. Why do you care? I ask again, this time truly curious. At first she doesn't answer, but then she mumbles, You can't help me either if you're hurt. What? The boys leave you alone. Right now they're leaving me alone too. If you and Seidu were both hurt. For a few minutes there's only the irregular sloshing sound of me dipping my hand into the bucket. I've done it for so long that my fingers have puckered, and my ridged fingertips drag across Seidu's eyebrows when I rub the water on his forehead. Maybe Musa will let me stay with him tomorrow. I don't even realize I've said it out loud until I hear a snort from over by the wall. You trust him too much. There's a hard flatness to her voice when she says it. I remember how that first day she criticized me for not getting Seidu away from here. I feel a deep need to prove her wrong. He cares about Seidu, I say, scrambling to find facts to make what I said true. He had him carried to camp, stitched him up, tried to bring his fever down this evening with the water. He left you here with him all day today, instead of leaving him alone. She snorts again. You can't really believe that. I stay quiet, angry now. The wildcat goes on in the silence. He doesn't care about Seidu or any of you. I want her to shut up, but she keeps talking. He doesn't want Seidu to die because he's still hoping to get more work out of him. But you can do the work of a man in a day. There's no way he's going to lose that by letting you stay here. I'm so angry now that I'm clenching my fists. I won't listen to what she's saying. I won't. It's not true. He'll take care of Seidu all right, but only if it doesn't cause him too much trouble, and only because he cares about the money. There's a pause. Then, Amadou? But I refuse to answer, and although she calls my name a few more times, I don't talk to her again for the rest of the night, and I don't let her help Seidu, and I don't sleep. By the next morning, I've passed beyond tiredness to a place where it takes me a few seconds to process sound into words and grainy colors into shapes. I move to the water pump to refill the bucket, which I've emptied overnight. But I haven't made it there when Musa appears behind me, carrying Seidu, who's hanging limply in his arms, still hiding in that place where I can't find him. Musa sets him by the pump. I splash a little water onto Seidu's face. The water spatters over his eyes and dribbles off the curve of his cheeks onto the ground beside him. He doesn't even flinch. Musa frowns. He lifts Seidu's shirt bandaged arm under the pump and runs water on it until it soaks through. Then he unties the knot and unwraps it. The stench is overpowering. Blood, sickness, and rot merge with the smells of sweat and dirt as Musa peels the shirt off Seidu's arm. The last part sticks, pulling an infected crust off the wound, causing it to seep freely into the dust. I have to force myself to look at it. Swollen, oozing pus and blood, with angry streaks stretching from the tight stitches toward his elbow. Seydou's arm is so horrific, I turn away and vomit. He's not getting better. It's worse, so much worse than I could have ever imagined. I turn to Musa, ashamed of myself. He's still frowning at the arm, pushing at the edge of the swollen stitches with one finger. I don't know how he can stand to do that. The smell of my vomit mixing with the smell of the infection makes me wish I was anywhere but here. Musa looks at me then, and his face seems to soften. Your brother's arm is very bad, he says. Go to your crew. I'll stay and take care of him today. My body sags with relief. A part of me is ashamed at how glad I am to leave my brother, but I can't fight my feelings of helplessness when I look at that awful wound. Musa knew how to stitch Seidu up. He'll know how to make his arm better today. I look at the corner of the sleeping hut where Khadijah's leaning in the shadows and send a glare her way. Musa will take care of everything, I think. She turns and hobbles to the breakfast fire. Perhaps she heard me. I walk to the other side of the fire, away from Khadijah, and bolt my breakfast of cooked green bananas. No stew this morning. Musa was too busy with Seidu and me to organize it. As I pull off the hot, starchy peel and eat the insides, I see Musa talking to the other bosses. A few minutes later, when the call goes up to form crews, Ismail and Salif divide Musa's usual crew between them. I'm assigned to Ismail's team, and I grab a machete from the shed and run to get in line. Ismail's not known for his patience. Even so, I don't want to end up with the worst machete. I almost smile. Tired as I am, today is looking up. My mood is changed when I see Musa walking toward me, dragging a chained Khadijah with him. I look behind me. Sure, they must be headed somewhere else, because really, why on earth would he be putting us together when she's escaped twice when I've been around? Musa stops in front of me. He changed Khadijah's chain. It's now almost a meter long, connecting two cuffs. One of them is around her wrist. Musa holds the other out to me. Put this on, he says. What? I stammer. Why? Musa gives me a look that says he has all the patience in the world, and I'm slowly using it up, one drop at a time. The pastors will be here soon. I have to have all the hands working in the field that I can. If I'm staying here to take care of your brother, she has to go and work. I stare at him blankly. How does he expect me to be able to make her work? It's not like I'm a boss, or her brother, or anything. How? Musa reaches out, grabs my left wrist, and slaps the heavy metal cuff onto it. Figure it out, he says to me softly. I gaze blankly from his receding back to the shackle on my hand and the girl at the end of the chain. A few steps away, Musa pauses, as if he's just thought of something. Oh, and Amadou? He half turns. Yes? If you let her escape today, I'll kill him. With that, he walks away.